Alrighty, so today I wanted to take a look back at Persona 3, Persona 4, and Persona 5 monsters and discuss which one is best. So, first category, the first thing that I wanted to do is cover each monster once again in chronological order. So we'll start with Persona 3. We have Yuki. So he reduces all stats by 80%, reduces healing by 100%, applies Rage and Serenity, Firecrest, and Skirmish to yourself. On the Awakening, he does Insanity Resistance, Fire Defense, and applies a Blessing. Oh, it was this one. Aegis applies 200% cost recovery buff, uni gain buff, Siege, Guilty Eclipse, which prevents healing and reduces action speed, gives rejection resistance, 1,000 time defense, and Kijin. That was Persona 3. Persona 4 was Narukami, which was 200% buff. Buff resistance, preventing karma. Overcast. Light Spirit. Ambush. And on the hidden potentials, we had rejection resistance, light defense, and twilight. Yukiko was field abstraction, or field obstacle, abstraction, status ailment resistance, absolute, and mastery, rampart, wicked eclipse, which reduces status ailment, cost recovery, increases consumption, disables Unison gauge, fill activations on the enemy, boosts scorching and fire defense, and applies rage as the final piece. That was Persona 4. And moving on to Persona 5, we have Joker. Applies karma, special debuff, only hits once but absolute diffusion. Twilight, dark spirit, flank, awakens to slumber, dark, and applies dawn. And lastly, Queen. Queen does time slice, prohibits unison, applies rejection, changes cost with a demerit, boosts allies unison gauge by 30%, phalanx and nebulous eclipse, which disables constants and increases damage. She awakens to frozen resistance, star defense, and Kijin. So the first category is which of these monsters was the most underrated and people wish that they had spawned. So I talked to a bunch of people from my guild, from outside of the guild, but also just in general, the general feel is that a lot of people skipped over Yuki and they wish they had gotten him. He's a kind of interesting monster. There's not a lot of monsters that debuff 80, and there's also not a lot of monsters that reduce healing to 0 for the enemies. He also applies Rage and Serenity to himself. Serenity is really great because it chains, you can chain unis easy. He also applies Firecrest, which again is, there's only one monster that does that so far, which is Yugi. The bubble is like okay, but it's kind of interesting. He awakens to insanity, and blessing is also pretty nice. There's not a lot of monsters. It's not a super common buff, but blessing is around. But yeah, overall, I use him quite a bit actually as well, surprisingly. And I feel like he's quite strong. I think he's a little bit stronger than people might originally think. But yeah, the number one monster that people wish they had gotten was Yuki. Now, if we're talking about the number one PvP monster, or sorry, PvE monster, we're gonna do number one monster for quests. That would be Narukami. I use Narukami all the time for quests. I feel like his 200% buff is excellent. His debuff resistance is really nice. He also applies Overcast to himself. And when Overcast expires, he boosts the time that he has his buffs. So you basically have the buffs for the entire time. Spirit Crest, again, is very nice for quests. And remember, light beats dark and time. Even though he only gives a boost to time, you're still getting light elements, so it's good against dark as well. The 25% time bane is only doesn't apply to him, doesn't apply to dark, but he's still very good. And then he gets the second best bubble in the game. And Twilight is a nice little boost in damage. It's not a ton of damage, but it is a little bit. Now, the number one character, in my opinion, for PvP is Queen. The time slicing, the uni prohibit, the rejection, being able to reset the enemy's cost to only 30, and then also uni boosting your side, and at the same time applying the most diabolical field in the entire game when it comes to PvP. These are what make Queen just incredibly powerful. The Kijin as well, if you awakened into Kijin, is really nice. And the star defense, quite powerful as well. There's basically nothing on Queen that isn't really, really good for PvP. She's definitely the number one PvPer in all of the Persona collabs. When it comes to guild battles, I am going to skip Queen, even though I think that she is still amazing for guild battles. I feel like her round one throw is a little bit dangerous because she applies the Nebulous Eclipse, and she's not blocking the enemies from gaining uni. So for PvP, I put Queen, but for guild battles, the number one is going to be Yukiko. The main reason that I'm putting Yukiko is the field obstacle, reducing the enemy's status ailment by 100 so that you can throw another uni that potentially kills them, or not kills them, but locks them down and prevents them from moving. She applies Absolute and Mastery. Absolute is really great because it helps you if you need to get uni, like your teammates need to get uni, they can get uni. And Mastery is really good because it helps your team survive getting attacked. Rampart is okay. But the Wicked Eclipse is the big one. Wicked Eclipse prevents the enemy from even being able to gain uni at all. So what you're doing is you're applying a field obstacle to the enemy team, and then on top of that, you're preventing them from being able to uni at all. And she doesn't give any penetration. She doesn't give anything that could potentially lead your team to accidentally start killing people or feeding the enemy uni, which is really valuable. Now you could argue that Queen is better, but out of the fact that I think the two of them are almost equal in every way, and I don't want to give one monster multiple spots if it doesn't deserve it, then I'm gonna go with Yukiko is number one when it comes to round 1 and round 2 in guild battle. She can be used in both situations, and is quite powerful in both situations. The abstraction is very powerful, even though it's not nearly as powerful as the nebulous eclipse. It can basically do the same thing, and she also status ailment resistances, so your team can follow up with something like a prohibit uni, and she can clear the board pretty easily as well. She does pretty good damage. So, because I feel like she's a little bit better than Queen in the round 1 throw, I'm putting her above Queen. Alrighty. And the last two categories. The next category is, in my opinion, the number one monster. If you only had to choose one monster and you wanted it to be the most flexible for PvP, PvE, and guild battles, which one would it be? I'm gonna have to go with Joker. Joker is incredible, applying Absolute, Diffusion, Twilight, and a Spirit's Crest, as well as the third best bubble, and Awakens to Dawn. These are incredible for basically everything. The biggest problem that I have with Joker is that you do need other people on your team to throw buffs in things like PvE, because he doesn't apply a 200% buff. He doesn't apply a he doesn't apply really anything else besides Absolute and Diffusion in PvE. But he does have the Spirit's Crest, which is really nice, and he does have a pretty good bubble just for yourself. The biggest problem that I have is that as a solo throw, he is weaker in PvE, but that doesn't mean that he's a bad throw in PvE. He's still a really, really good throw in PvE, but he's just he's a little bit weaker as a solo throw. But in PvP and guild battle, he's incredible as a solo throw. You could also argue that Aegis is really good in every single situation. The 200% buff is really nice. Boosting cost and uni is really nice as well. And then Guilty Eclipse is quite powerful in basically everything. It's a little bit weaker in guild battles and PvP, but Kijin is really good as well. I am voting Joker though as the overall best. Like if you had to pick just one as a new player and you wanted to use just one monster everywhere, I think Joker is probably the most powerful. His flexibility is the greatest, I think. Yeah, I think Queen would probably take this spot if she gave any types of buffs. I like if she gave better, like slightly better buffs, Queen would absolutely take this spot too as well. All right. Next and the final one is which monster is the best for your backline 5 monsters. And if I had to pick one, I would pick Aegis, because she gives an incredible amount of time defense, and historically time defense has been super valuable for star monsters, and we know that Queen just came out and Queen is a star monster. Having higher time defense is going to be super valuable, and there's not a whole lot of monsters that give 1,000 time defense, so it is really nice to have 1,000 time defense in the back here. And that is basically all of the monsters. I wanted to go over some hidden gems as well. This guy, Tettle, he gives +3 element. Usually those types of monsters give +2 element. So this is kind of a sneak peek, cool little monster. And yeah, I guess I could also go over the the 346 cost monsters. Um, Miasma for Elizabeth, it was Miasma, Unison, Prohibit, Beguilement, 100% Reflect, Skirmish. She awakened to Twilight and Absolute. Margaret was Beguilement, boosts ability power and crit, applies Barracks, which in my opinion is the best bubble, applies Blessing and Fortify, and we're comparing that with Justine and Carol, which removes enemies buffs, all allies, removes debuffs and special debuffs, elevation and concentration, redoubt, infinite element, grace, and time slice. I think that the best monster among the three is. Sorry about that. I think the best monster between the three is Margaret. The Beguilement is incredible for things like PvP. The crit boost and ability power boost is really nice. Barracks is the best bubble, in my opinion, as well. The Blessing and the Fortify are both really strong as well. So I think overall, Margaret is probably the best in things like PvE, PvP, and guild battles. So that is what I'm going with. And that is pretty much everything. That is all three Persona 3, Persona 4, and Persona 5 monsters compared. And my opinions on each. Now, I do think that each one kind of does fit its own role. And there are, like, some monsters are better than others, but I do think that each of them is a little bit different than each of the other ones. Like, I was very surprised at how good Yuki is, and I use him quite a bit actually, in quests. Joker, I was surprised I didn't use him as much, but that's because a lot of people are throwing Joker in quests, so I felt like I needed buff monsters, and that's why I pretty much always throw Narukami right now. And think for things like guild battles, the meta is always going to be changing, so it's one of those things that's kind of hard to tell where it'll be and where it's going to go. But yeah, there are quite a good amount of monsters, and Aegis is, even though I don't use her all the time, she is really really good as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of good monsters, and thank you all for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys later.